Welcome to the Oregon Statewide Assessment System training module for the ELA and Mathematics state tests. This module is a required part of annual training for all district and school test coordinators, as well as ELA and Mathematics test administrators. The topics covered in this module include a brief update on Oregon's state tests in both ELA and Mathematics for the current school year, scheduling considerations, appropriate administration, key elements of each test, and available resources including features related to online testing. References to specific sections of Oregon's Test Administration Manual and the Oregon Accessibility Manual are included within slides where applicable. These resources are also hyperlinked at the end of this presentation. We encourage you to bookmark these in your browser for future reference, as well as the ODE Student Assessment homepage. Before we begin, here is a helpful list for your reference of acronyms that you will find in these slides. This section includes any changes to the ELA and Mathematics tests for the current school year, as well as some important reminders about newer features to each test. Both the OSAS ELA and Mathematics tests consist of two components: a computer adaptive test, or CAT, and a performance task, or PT. The ELA CAT consists of approximately 25 items across all grade levels. The ELA performance task consists of one research item and one writing extended response, or full write, composition. The Math CAT consists of approximately 20 items. Starting in grade 6, the CAT includes two segments, one where a calculator is allowed and one where it is not. Be sure to check out ODE's ELA and Math assessment web pages for more specifics on OSAS test design and blueprints. Beginning in the 2023-24 school year, all students will access the Oregon Statewide Assessment System by logging in with their legal last name and SSID number rather than their first name. The last name entered by the student must exactly match information recorded in TIDE. Test administrators should double-check that students with the same last name receive their correct SSID number prior to testing in order to avoid testing improprieties. In recent years, ODE has received numerous requests to reopen student tests that were accidentally submitted rather than paused. This interrupts and prolongs students' testing experiences and often requires additional testing sessions to be planned for students to complete their test once it's reopened. To support a more efficient testing experience, ODE has updated the student test directions to include a caution when students pause the ELA performance task before completing their full write portion. Test administrators can use the sample and training tests in the OSAS portal to help students become familiar with the testing interface prior to testing. In 2023-24, students taking the OSAS math test in Spanish will have the ability to toggle between English and Spanish rather than seeing a stacked language display. This language toggle on the OSAS math test now functions in exactly the same way as on the OSAS science test. As a reminder, setting the presentation language to Spanish is available as an embedded designated support. Two additional reminders for the OSAS math test. First, Spanish language text-to-speech is also available as a designated support. This will require a Spanish language pack to be installed on the student's device. Second, math manipulatives are still available for use as non-embedded designated supports. Be sure to follow the administration guidelines set forth in the Oregon Accessibility Manual. In order to align with the 2021 Oregon Math Standards, the OSAS math test blueprints will be changing over the next few years. In 2023-24, there are no changes to test blueprints in grades 3 through 8. In grade 11, however, the pool of test items has been reduced to remove items that no longer align with Oregon standards. In all grades, the overall length of the test will not change from 2022-23. ODE anticipates field testing additional items in 2024-25, including data reasoning items unique to Oregon standards. Be sure to visit ODE's Math Assessment webpage for full details. Our next topic is scheduling, which ensures students have sufficient time to complete both the OSAS ELA and mathematics tests. ODE has developed test windows to provide districts with flexibility in scheduling and managing the logistics of test administration. Within these statewide dates, schools may set shorter school-level test windows. Federal and state laws require that at least 95% of all students in grades 3 through 8 and 11 participate in state testing in ELA and math each school year. The statewide test windows for the current school year are shown here. Please note that schools are responsible for testing all students enrolled on the first school day in May. Students who enroll after the first school day in May will not be included in the school's accountability calculations. However, they may still be tested. The complete list of OSAS test windows can be found in Appendix A of the TAM. More information about school-level test windows can be found in Training Module 1 or in Section 5.2 of the TAM. Here are some guidelines and recommended practices for scheduling the OSAS, ELA, and math tests. The tests should be given on separate days. Students should finish one before starting the other. Whichever is administered first, students should not have both the tests open at the same time. It is recommended but not required that the CAT be administered first in both content areas. Neither the OSAS ELA nor math tests are timed, meaning students should be allowed to continue working as long as they are making progress. However, schools should use the average testing times in Section 5.1 of the TAM to guide local planning in order to maximize instructional time. Estimated testing times can be helpful in planning the length of test sessions. This table reflects the approximate time it will take most students to complete the specified test at each grade level based on the previous year's statewide administration. Note that these times are estimates and are to be used for planning purposes only. Actual student testing times may vary. As in previous years, ODE will continue to provide Grade 12 ELA and mathematics testing options. While Grade 12 participation is not mandatory for accountability, districts should make the option available for those students who wish to participate for college placement purposes. ODE will also continue to provide a Grade 10 Challenge Up option. The option to take the Grade 11 assessment is available only to Grade 10 students who have completed advanced coursework in their respective ELA and/or mathematics content area. The decision to challenge up should be made with the student and their family. Participation during a student's Grade 10 year is not required, even if the student has successfully completed advanced coursework. If a Grade 10 student successfully meets the high school achievement standard, that score will be banked and reported in the student's Grade 11 year. If the student does not meet the high school achievement standard, the student must retest in their Grade 11 year or they will be counted as a non-participant. The next topic is test administration, which ensures equitable access for all students. This slide begins a list of test administration guidelines. First, ensure that the test administrator has activated the assessment for the correct content area. Second, all instructional visuals, stimuli, and posters must be removed from the physical testing environment. And third, test administrators should have read the approved directions from the test administration manual before beginning the assessment. Test coordinators and test administrators should ensure that all embedded designated supports and accommodations are set and tied for students who should have access. An embedded feature is one that is delivered in the secure browser as part of the test interface. An example of an embedded designated support is Spanish presentation for a student's math assessment. An example of an embedded accommodation is text-to-speech for the ELA CAT. As a reminder, accommodations require documentation in a student's IEP or Section 504 plan. Decisions around both designated supports and accommodations are to be made with the student's school support team, the student themselves, and the student's family. Similarly, test administrators should make available any non-embedded universal tools and/or designated supports for students who need them. A non-embedded feature is one that exists outside of the testing interface. An example of a non-embedded universal tool is Scratchpaper. An example of a non-embedded designated support is the use of math manipulatives. An example of a non-embedded accommodation is the use of a scribe. Finally, we offer a caution. Historical data shows that adult-initiated behaviors are the leading cause of reported test improprieties. Ensuring that all test administration in your school and district are consistent in these administration practices will greatly reduce the risk of test improprieties and, at worst, invalidated student tests. Scratchpaper is one example of a non-embedded universal tool available to all students. Scratchpaper may be securely retained between testing sessions for the performance task, but it may not be retained for the CAT. If retained between test sessions, test administrators must direct students to write their names or some appropriate identifying information on their Scratchpaper and then collect and inventory each sheet at the end of each test session. Retained Scratchpaper must be kept in a securely locked room or cabinet that can only be opened by authorized staff. When students have completed and submitted their test, all retained Scratchpaper should be securely shredded. One embedded universal tool available to all students is the ability for tests to be paused at any time. When a student selects the pause button on the screen, that student will get a warning message to verify they want to pause their test. Students should take care to not accidentally submit their test when they intend to pause. If an ELA or Math CAT is paused for fewer than 20 minutes, a student may review questions they've already answered. If an ELA or Math CAT is paused for 20 minutes or more, a student may not review or change questions they've already answered. If a test is active but idle for over 20 minutes, the system will automatically pause the test and log the student out. There are no pause restrictions for either the ELA or Math performance tasks. If a PT is paused for 20 minutes or more, the student can return to the section they were in and continue entering their response. Please note, however, that students may not navigate between Segment 1 and Segment 2 of the ELA PT. Finally, tests can only be active for 20 days after they have been started. After this, they expire and their contents are scored as they appear. This section covers the key elements of the OSAS ELA and mathematics tests. The OSAS ELA and math tests are adaptive, which means the question difficulty adjusts as the student works through the test, providing either easier or more difficult items based on correct and incorrect student responses. Students will interact with different items, such as multiple choice, where there is a single correct response, multiple select, where there are multiple correct responses, hot text or text highlighting, drag and drop, matching items, and other table interactions. Some items are technology enhanced or enabled to allow students to enter an equation or create a graph. For more information about item types, please refer to the Resources section later in this module. The OSAS ELA test combines 4 elements, or claims, of English Language Arts into one test: reading, writing, listening, and research. Students will receive an overall composite score as well as claim scores for reading and writing. As in previous years, listening items will require each student to have a headset. Students at all tested grades will be required to participate in a performance task, which will require them to write an extended essay. Please check the Oregon Accessibility Manual for specific allowable supports. The OSAS math test also combines 4 areas or claims of mathematics into one test. Claim 1 is concepts and procedures. Claim 2 is problem solving. Claim 3 is communicating reasoning. And Claim 4 is modeling and data analysis. For this school year, students will receive an overall composite score and a Claim 1 score. Schools and districts will still have access to claim and target level data for program evaluation and planning. Again, please check the Oregon Accessibility Manual for specific allowable supports. Desmos calculators continue to be an embedded support within some mathematics items in grades 6 through 8 and grade 11. In grade 6, a 4-function calculator is available. In grades 7 and 8, a scientific calculator is available. In grade 11, a full-function graphing calculator is available. More information about the specific functionality of these calculators can be found on the Desmos website at www.desmos.com/testing/Oregon. Note that the OSAS science test uses the same embedded calculators as those found on the OSAS math test. One final key element of Oregon's statewide assessment system in ELA and math is data access. As a test administrator, you have access to summative and interim assessment data through the Centralized Reporting System, or CRS, available in the OSAS portal. CRS provides educators access to individual student-level results as well as to aggregated data for each assessment target. Target reports show the performance of groups of students on specific assessment targets rather than simply an overall picture. New in 2023-24, cross-sectional target reports allow districts and schools to include up to 3 years' worth of target data to monitor system-wide trends in performance. District test coordinators, school test coordinators, and test administrators have access to these reports and can use them in their collaboration and professional learning. District test coordinators may also create accounts for non-test administrators to access district or school level data. Our final topic are resources that can adequately prepare both teachers and students for Oregon's state tests. There are 2 different practice tests available through the OSAS portal. First is the training test, which is aligned to grade bands. Training tests include 6 to 9 questions and are designed to allow students to try out embedded tools and supports, as well as to interact with each of the different item types. In ELA, training tests are available for grades 3 through 5, grades 6 through 8, and high school. For math, training tests are available in grades 3 through 5, grade 6, grades 7 and 8, and high school. The second are sample tests, which are aligned to specific grades. Sample tests provide students and educators a look at the grade-specific operational assessment. Sample tests include approximately 30 items that vary in difficulty. Scoring guides for the sample tests are available on the OSAS portal under the Resources tab. Both training and sample tests include all embedded universal tools, designated supports, accommodations, and language supports. To most effectively use training and sample tests, it's helpful to consider their purpose. Use the training test if you want to familiarize students with how to navigate the test, including universal tools and embedded supports. Also, use the training test to help students learn how to interact with each of the different item types. Use the sample test if you want students to interact with specific grade level items, or you want students to experience items across all claims. Several documents outline the structure of the OSAS, ELA, and math tests. Links to access these resources are provided at the end of this slideshow. Educators should spend time looking at these materials to help inform how they prepare students to be successful on each test. Test blueprints indicate the number of items included on each test, how each test is scored, and the depth of knowledge intended to be used by students when answering items. Content specifications list all assessment targets within each claim, as well as the ELA or math standards aligned to those targets. Item specifications provide task models and appropriate stems for each item type and are broken out by grade level, claim, and target. This slide contains a list of all the linked resources that have been referenced throughout this training. First, the OSAS portal links to all components of the assessment system, including training and sample tests. Second, you can get more information on test blueprints, test design, assessment targets, and the number of items from each claim by visiting the ELA and Math assessment websites. Finally, the Test Administration Manual and Oregon Accessibility Manual provide technical support for districts, schools, and educators. This is a great spot in the presentation to pause and answer the questions on the current slide, as well as ask questions of your district or school test coordinator. We've reached the end of our training module for the OSAS, ELA, and Math state tests. Thank you very much for your time and attention.